Good morning, everybody, and welcome to DCC Today. This is our Friday edition, and you've made it through another week. I hope it's been a good one. This has been Bird Week because our photos of the day have been birds. And we started the week off with a photo from Paul Wessler, and we're going to finish it up with one that Paul sent as well. And this is a pair of Western tanagers. The male is doing his mating dance. Way to woo the lady there, my friend. It always amuses us and amazes us to see some of the incredible mating dances that these different birds do. That is a pretty cool picture, Paul. Thanks for sharing it. If you've got photos of the day to share, you've seen something really interesting, something beautiful, your favorite grandchild, whatever, go ahead and send those in. I could use some more. And so just send them to tim@dcchurch.org and we will be using those in the days ahead. Sunday morning, we are going to be continuing our series, Faith Has Feet, going through the book of James. So I hope you'll join us for that. And if you have trouble with your online connection, maybe you don't have good internet, or you can't get it up on your big screen TV and you want to see the service better, we are making it available now on DVDs. You just need to let the church office know, get signed up for it, and then we have the DVDs ready by late Friday afternoon, and you can just swing by the church. There's a box outside the office so that even if you come after hours, you can pick it up. And so please feel free to avail yourself of that. There's no charge for those. If you want to make a donation to help cover materials, that's fine. But just let us know if you'd like that by contacting the church office. And as I've been saying all week, we've got some exciting news on Sunday. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. And so don't miss Sunday because this is going to be, I think, a real step forward for us as a church and what we can do ministry-wise, especially right now where so many things we have to do remotely and through video and things like that. So Sunday morning, we'll let you know more about it. I also want to say thank you to everyone who took up my request on Wednesday asking you to pray for the staff as we had our mini staff retreat. That means a lot to us. We've, as staff, been praying a lot. The elders have been praying. Just that we would have clear direction about how we should be moving forward in the weeks and months ahead. And I am so grateful for the staff that I'm allowed to serve with in this church. They are quality people who love the Lord and love all of you. And it was a great day for us to be together and pray together, talk together, do some dreaming, do some agonizing. And as things play out in the weeks ahead, some of the things that came out of that day, we are going to be finding ways to implement and hopefully be doing the things that God has called us to do. So thank all of you for praying for us, and please know that we are praying for all of you. You guys are constantly in our thoughts, and in really everything that we do around here is to say, how do we serve you and how do we serve our community to the very best of our ability in a way that honors Christ. So thanks for praying for us. How about a devotional thought for today? This comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 12. If the readiness is there, it is acceptable according to what a person has, not according to what he does not have. This verse, Paul is talking to the Corinthians about a financial gift that they were going to give to some other needy believers. And, the question is, well, how much should you give? How much can you give? And some people, God is blessed with lots of resources. They could give a lot. And others, I think, were struggling because they felt like maybe what they gave wasn't significant enough. It didn't matter as much. And Paul says to them, if the readiness is there, if you have the heart, if you have the desire, then the acceptable amount, the acceptable gift is what is according to what you have, not according to what you don't have. If someone can give a lot more than you, that doesn't diminish what you can give at all. If it is what you have and it comes out of a heart that is willing and desires to love others and to serve God, Paul says that gift is fully as worthwhile, fully acceptable. I think that applies to all kinds of things in our walk with the Lord. There are people I see that I think, wow, I wish I could have the gifts that they have. I watch gifted musicians, and I wish I could play an instrument or sing the way that they can. And the noises that I make when I'm in the shower singing don't sound anything like that. And yet, it's what God has given me. And if God sees my heart lifted in worship, whether my voice is as great as those other voices or not, God says, that is acceptable, that is pleasing. When it comes to how I use my time and my talents, maybe I feel like other people have greater gifts or more time or can give more in more significant ways, but that's not how God measures it. God looks at you. He knows exactly the talents He's given you. He knows the degree of talent that you have. He knows the resources, the time that you have. And what He cares about is the heart behind how you put those things into service. And if He sees a full heart that is fully given to Him, He's pleased, whatever the amount of output is that comes from it. If the readiness is there, it is acceptable according to what a person has, not according to what he does not have. Well, today we are going to wrap up, not with an interview like normally, but we're going to continue this little Friday series that I started just before the 4th of July. I started this series featuring a friend of mine who's passed on now, but Robert Bourquin, who was the oldest surviving veteran when he passed from the battle for Wake Island. And I think his story is an amazing story, one that I had the privilege to video several years ago. And we're just sharing that in segments over the next several weeks. So I hope you enjoy part 3 of Sergeant Robert Bourquin, USMC.
During the battle, the 23rd of December, the main landing, by the time it started getting light, we realized that we were pretty much surrounded by Japanese troops. It looked like it was going to be impossible for us to retreat to the 50 caliber gun behind us. We still couldn't get the generator working. But what we didn't know was that a great portion of the island had already been surrendered and the men taken captive, and the Japanese placed them directly on the runway. So if we had got our generator working and blown up the airfield, we would have killed many of our own men. About daylight, we realized that we were going to really have a tough time of it. About, I think it was somewhere around 11 or 12 o'clock in the day, we saw this group headed towards us down the road. And they got within shouting distance and halted, and it was a Major Devereux and Sergeant Malik, and he held a broom up with a white flag on it, and about 20 or 25 Japanese soldiers with an officer in charge. And Devereux shouted to us, he said, "The island has been surrendered. Lay down your weapons." And I turned to Lieutenant Cleaver, and I said, "Don't surrender, Lieutenant." I said, "The Marines never surrender." And I said, it's a hoax. But anyway, he said, we must surrender. It's a direct order. So I had Charlotte, my fiance's picture, stuck in my waistband with my shirt over it. And I had a lot of 45 ammunition that I just stuck down my neck to get it out of the way. And anyway, we went out of the dugout with our hands up. And just as we went out, I had a hand grenade that I was ready to throw, had the pin pulled on. So if I dropped it, it was explosive right then. It would ignite. So I rolled it into the dugout as we walked out, and that kind of irritated this surrender group. Anyway, we walked out, and they pulled our shirts up, and all this ammunition fell out, and Charlotte's, my fiance's, picture fell out. And this officer, a lieutenant, reached down, picked up the picture, and shoved it down my waistband again, and said, "Your wife?" And I lied. I said, "Yes." He said, "You keep." He spoke English. So then they made us take all our clothing except our underwear and shoes off. And they tied our hands with telephone wire. And the wire went down between our legs and up around our throat with a slip knot. And if you moved your hands, you'd choke yourself. And they marched just down to the airfield, the main part of the landing strip. And they put us in groups of about 20. And they had 2 guards on foot and a machine gun mounted on a tripod on each group. And I was just in shock, the fact that I was now a prisoner and no longer in control. And I felt terrible shame at surrendering. And finally, this shock began to wear off, and I became aware of the situation. And I looked around, and I saw all this firepower directed on us. Here we were, men in our underwear, and they had superior fire on us. And I said to myself, this doesn't look good. They're going to execute us. And actually, their early orders were, we found out later, had been to execute all prisoners. So anyway, I whispered to the guys around me. I said, each one of you work on the guy's hands in front of you and we get loose. And I says, I think they're going to kill us. I says, so we'll put up a fight. As I'm working on the fellow in front of me, I got his hands loose, and when I looked at my hands, I had blood all over them. And I wondered where the blood came from. And I looked up, and on this fellow's shoulder, as I looked at it, it just was just oozing blood, something awful. He had a terrible wound right in the shoulder. So I got down and worked off my own T-shirt and made a compress and pushed it against his back. And I told him to push back against me so he could put some pressure on it. Well, this exposed the picture of my fiancée. And one of the Japanese guards on patrol around us looked over and saw the picture, and he reached down and grabbed it, opened it up, it was in a folder, opened it up and spat on it, threw it on the ground, and he's grinding his heel on it. And I lost control. I did a stupid thing. He didn't know my hands were loose. I did a stupid thing. I came up off the ground with a right cross, and I hit him right in the side of the face, knocked him cold. And he went tumbling over. And his buddy came over and took the bayonet. First of all, he hit me with a butter rifle and knocked me silly. And he took the rifle, the bayonet, and put it right at my throat and was going to bayonet me. This all just happened in seconds. And all of a sudden there was a shout, and this guy with the bayonet pulls the bayonet back and comes to attention. I thought, well, what next? I was all ready. And this officer came over, reached down and picked up the picture, wiped it off on his sleeve, and handed it to me, slapped the one that had bayoneted me, or was going to bayonet me, slapped him and said something to him in Japanese. And he turned to me, he says, "I'm so sorry." And I looked at him, couldn't believe it. I looked at him, and it was the same lieutenant that had allowed me to keep the picture in the first place. So I decided this must be my lucky piece. So and they didn't tie us up again. So then I took the picture and took it out of this cardboard folder and fixed it so it would fit in my shoe, and stuck it in my shoe. And there it stayed for several weeks before I finally took it out. And I thought, I'll never be without this picture. And to this day, this picture has never been away from me.
Well, I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us today. I hope that you will join us Sunday morning for worship service, and we'll be back here Monday with DCC Today. Till then, God bless.